What is going on, wrestling fans? It's IC Fall. Welcome back to 10 Count Media. It's another edition of the Golden Era podcast with Sean Mooney, Moonman himself. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to see you, brother. It's been a little break we had there, and
Yes.
you've been incredibly busy. But it's nice that we put time aside to spend some QT time together and talk
Of
about
course.
the golden era.
Oh, hell yeah. And today we are talking about, I think, the peak of the Golden Era, the thing that started it all. The day that Hulk Hogan body slammed that big stinking giant, André the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Today we're talking about the impact of just that one body slam in professional wrestling. And before we get into all the details, my question to you is, WrestleMania 1, huge, monumental. But without the success of WrestleMania 3, would we be in today's world with Netflix and TKO and ESPN?
Well, that certainly is debatable. If that this one event was that incredible and was the peak, at least at the beginning, to really launch things. I totally agree with that. Would Hulkamania have reached the heights that it did? Probably, but I think it would have taken longer. This was SpaceX launch for the WWF at the time, and it wasn't, the Hulkamania was already starting to its climb, and we saw that after WrestleMania 1 and all of that. But the fact that Andre the Giant stepped into that ring with Hulk Hogan, went toe to toe with him, and they still talk about it. The body slam heard around the world certainly escalated things much quicker, I think, than what would have taken a course. So to answer that question, was it the thing, and would the WWE have not reached the peaks that it has? I think it certainly would have happened at some point. They still had Hulk Hogan. They still had the magic that he had going. They had a formula going that just kept continuing to build. I mean, think about it at that time, even at these, house shows, these tapings that they did, they were still drawing, 20,000 people to some of these things. And if you think back to then and all, some of the other wrestling organizations that were out there, I mean, if they put 2,000 in a building, they were just ecstatic. It was like, oh my God, we new highs, like with ECW or these other outfits out there. So to imagine just for a house show that they're putting 20,000 people in there shows you that it was already taking off. But putting 93,000 plus, and of course was there really? But come on, take a look at it. The Pontiac Silverdome was just packed to the rafters. That was not AI. There was no,
it was AI. I tell you, it was AI.
There weren't cardboard audience members out there.
Sure.
And so to pull that off, and you got to think about what Vince McMahon's vision was. I saw an image that was online of Vince, and he's on one of those, the things that they used. They brought everybody out to the ring.
The rings on the wheels.
They go up and down or whatever. So he's on one of those, and he's just looking. You can see, and it's an empty stadium. And I just had to think, what was in his mind that day, thinking like, oh my God, we could do this. Yeah, I see it. It's empty. And to think about what they did, and that just shows you what a visionary he was at the time. Everybody always has these dreams of things that they could do. Well, Vince McMahon did it, damn it, and who would have ever thought at that time that you were going to be putting nearly 100,000 people into a stadium for a wrestling event? I mean, that's Super Bowl type audience members you're talking about. So it was an incredible event, and of course, a fantastic card. I'm sure we'll talk about what some of the other matches were on that card, and we'll also talk about what we thought of this match. But the fact that you had Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, who was, arguably, I'll say it, he was really one of the first mainstream professional wrestlers. Everybody had heard of Andre the Giant. He was this massive human. There's no doubt he wasn't a giant. And so he was, Hulk maybe took it to different places, obviously, but to have those two in the ring, and it captured the world's attention. Pay-per-view was in its infancy, and the numbers, I'm sure we'll talk about those two, were phenomenal, considering I think the overall take on that event was over $20 million, which at the time was gigantic. So answering that question, yes, it was pivotal. Did it change the history of the WWE forever? Yes, absolutely. But to say that it wouldn't have happened, I don't think so. I think eventually they would have gotten to that point, but it certainly expedited that process, shall we say.
See, I'm happy you said that answer, because you easily could have been like, yes, of course, this body slam changed the world. Babies were born, flowers were blooming.
That's right.
You could have said that. And you know what? The revised history of this event and this body slam, that is what we're told. We're told this event, this body slam changed the wrestling world forever. Without this, there would be no foundation. We're talked about Austin 316. We're always told these things that change the world. But when you watch them in real time and see how beat by beat, how they actually do affect the world, this is a huge event. WrestleMania 1 itself.
Yes.
Gigantic event.
Another thing that changed wrestling history. Yes.
It connected to MTV, which was like the coolest thing in the world in 1985. That created a cartoon. Then we got into WrestleMania 2, where we're so big, we're so hot. Let's go into 3 locations to make 3 amounts of money. Perfect. I think Vince McMahon is known for a man who takes big swings. And WrestleMania 3 he's going, okay, well, we did great. WrestleMania 1, we got that cartoon where Hulkamania is running wild. We're all over the real world. We're on TV shows. People are asking for wrestlers. But like, if you don't keep delivering big moments, are you just a flash in a pan like anything that has appeared in pulp culture before in wrestling? At least the WWE. They have they have stayed the course of staying in your eye, just like Coca-Cola, just like Pepsi. These companies, they're legacy brands that we all recognize. And WrestleMania 3 helped that legacy brand continue. I'm just so happy that you didn't say, yes, it changed everything, Steve. Moving on. As you
never know what's going to come out of this coconut up here, do you?
Well, Roddy Piper could have hit Snuka with your coconut.
That's true. And then knocked me into a wall. And But also you really have to think about that. You mentioned Vince always swung for the fences, and it's well documented that when WrestleMania 1 happened, that he pretty much just put everything. He put everything on black and rolled the dice to see what was going to happen, and the company would have been in serious trouble if that had fallen come up short. I mean, it could have been a disaster. And the same thing here when he attempts to put over 93,000 people into a stadium. Can you imagine how bad can you imagine how bad that would have been if let's say they put half that number in there, which would have been a huge crowd, let's say almost 50,000, but in a stadium like that, it would have looked empty and it would have been a disaster. And what do you do at that point? You've already committed. You got to go do it. So you're thinking, oh man, and then you're going to put the black sheets up over seats and, the whole thing. And so Vince gambled again. He did it again and again. And that's the kind of person that I think he remained. It's not like Vince really ever changed, but how many people have the stones to do something like that? And, he never lost the vision of it, that no, we're going to do it. And by God, they did it. And so for a number of reasons, it was a historic event, and very much so that would, blaze the trail for all the events beyond that. But everybody remembers that one as certainly one of the greatest ever because of all that was involved. The stadium, Hulk, Andre, Randy Savage in that match which was, people say it somewhat overshadowed the big main event, and we'll talk about that. But really, overall, it was one of the biggest events to ever take place in the history of professional wrestling, and is certainly up there today, remembered as being one.
Yeah,
with all they've done.
Oh yeah, and it's funny you bring up the talk thing because I've gone to so many big events over the years, and the most recent, say the past 4 years. Even ones, at MetLife Stadium or all these big arenas, the stage takes up half of the arena most of the time. So then they have to put black curtains all around that because it's all filled with equipment and stagehands. And so, but when you see that picture that is very famous from this event, it's way up top. Someone like went all the way up, took a picture. It shows you it. There's no black tarps. There's nothing. Like, we are full to the max. And again, if you want to argue that there's 73 or 93, the image is still there. The pictures are still there. The atmosphere is still rocking. So, like, if you want to argue over schematics and numbers, it's still historic. It's still crazy. But I want to go back to the beginning of this rivalry, because over the years, you know, these two, Andre and Hogan, on television had a friendship. And it's so funny because André the Giant gets a trophy given to him. And he's like, oh, you know, for all your hard work and all your dedication, you get a trophy. And it's like the size of a little bowling trophy. Like, oh, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
And here's one for Superstar of the Year for Hulk Hogan. It's this giant ass, huge trophy.
Yeah.
And
for being the champion for 3 years or something. Yeah.
It's so funny because when everyone thinks of like, man, that body slam or this moment, like, well, you got to go back to how it happened. It's because of a mishap at the trophy store when they ordered Andre's trophy and they got a dinky one, and they ordered Hogan's and it was gigantic. You know, that's just, to me, is one of those funny moments of like, wow, what happened?
Yeah,
how did the storyline get started?
Sure, it was a mix-up.
Bobby Heenan.
Brother.
Bobby Heenan was working there.
I don't think so. Let me ponder. Yeah, I don't think so. And it, started got the stirrings of this going on. And as you said, friendship made in heaven, really. Andre and Hulk Hogan, and Andre had, for the most part, always been a baby face as far for the WWF and beyond. And so when this heel turn was taking place, it was like, kind of, whoa, what the hell? What's going on here? And and people also have to remember that the Hulkster and Andre weren't new to each other. They had wrestled several times in the past. The Hulk, I believe, even at one show, body slammed. Andre. Did. That was, it was, of course, it was billed he'd never been, but and also, which is also really interesting, Steve, too, is that they had, and we've talked about this before when people talk about Terry Bollea's skills, that he spent a lot of time in Japan, and they are much more demanding there. And Terry proved that he could work. He had to, and could move in that ring. But also Andre and the Hulkster had wrestled several times in Japan, and to some pretty good matches, because at the time Andre was in much better physical condition, and they had to work over there, otherwise the crowds buried you. So that part of this history is really, it's a rich part of it. It's unfortunate that when this all happened in '87, that Andre was already starting his decline, his physical decline, and it wouldn't be 4 years later that that would be his last appearance with the WWE. So it's unfortunate that when this did happen, he wasn't more able to move around, and people crap all over this match because of what actually went on in the ring. Really? And we'll get into that. But at the time, just the fact of those two in there together, and the enormity of the circumstances surrounding it, made it a memorable match forever, and made it a part of wrestling history that deserves to be recognized.
I just blame that trophy guy. This is all the trophy shop's fault, really.
No, I blame Bobby Heenan.
I bet he was the guy. I bet he had a fake mustache on. He's working the trophy store.
And he was working Andre, that he's just taking advantage of you, and he's not your real friend. And so, there was a lot going on behind the scenes.
Trophy and Bobby Heenan have something's going there. I think the brother of Bobby Heenan, Ray Heenan, worked at at the trophy store. Yeah, but it's all
cousins.
This all happens on Piper's Pit, which is even more insane, is because, like, you go back before that, Hogan and Piper hate each other on television, probably backstage too. And yet here we are with Piper on Piper's Pit being the good guy. There's Andre. Bobby Heenan walks out now. And now Andre is sweating like crazy in his suits. He always did. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, put him in suits. Just give him the damn black singlet. Let him breathe, damn it. But this is where Andre rips off the crucifix of Hulk Hogan that he's wearing.
It didn't matter what you put on him. He was going to sweat.
Put him in nothing. Yeah. Get him out there. He's naked, folks, and he's still somehow sweaty. Yeah. No, he grabbed.
That's because that heart's working really hard to get. Yeah. So
that's so true too.
Andre was a sweat machine, but that's because that was a big machine to take care of. So it was very tough.
Good point. Very, very good point. Very good point. And when Andre grabs that crucifix, though, he scratches Hogan's chest with his big, long ass goddamn Wolverine nails and makes him bleed. And Andre walks off, and Hogan's on the ground holding his crucifix. Yeah. He doesn't know what to do. He's bleeding. Even Piper's like, you're bleeding. And he touches his chest, and there's blood dripping. The crucifix nails on the ground. Like, you know, in today's world, religion, it's up and down depending how you feel. But seeing like the crucifix on the ground, there's blood there next to it. Like, that's a heavy, heavy moment in 1987 on WWF television. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think that it worked out tremendously better than they had even hoped, because whether or not that Andre was supposed to rip that necklace off, I think it was just, grab the t-shirt and, breaking the chain, and then the cross falling to the ground, and the necklace. And then in the meantime, there's a scratch, and there's, draws blood. And also it was out there that the Hulkster had put, Vapo mix, or remember the Vapo rub under his eyes, so that he would tear up. So there's, then people have broken it down, and who knows, but they, like there's a shot where you see just before Andre goes to grab the shirt, you see Hulk do one of these on his eyes. But my point of it is, though, that the way they probably laid that out, he's going to rip the shirt, and then it goes from there. But then you've got the added, the necklace is gone, the crucifix, and whatever you think, the cross, falls, and that's symbolic, because Hulkster, who's he thanking after every victory? He's looking to the skies, thanking the big guy. And then he falls to his knees, and the tears are coming. And then, Roddy playing the scene goes, and you're bleeding. And it just, so all of it all comes together. There's blood, there's tears, and so there, it just could not have been played out better, because people felt that. And, and Hulkster, maybe not the greatest thespian in the world or whatever, but it was awfully genuine. You look at that whole scene, and it worked. And whether or not it was, set up to do that way, but the way it played out, it couldn't have been better.
Yeah. And Hogan obviously looking there, he's like, Andre, like, come on, man. What's going on? He's shocked. He's not like one of those moments like a bad guy turns on you and you get beat up by your bad guy. Like, Andre clearly could have just crushed him right there. Instead, he just gave him a warning. You better give me a title shot, dude, because we've been friends all these years. You haven't given me a title shot. This is what Bobby Heenan is saying, though, pretty much out loud. You never gave me a shot, and they walk off. And the best thing about that is they have this moment later on when they have to ask Hogan, like, the challenge has been laid down. The contract is there. Hogan, will you fight André the Giant at WrestleMania? And Hogan's sitting there. He's like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, yes! And it shows the crowd, and the crowd standing, and the camera shakes. Like, clearly someone was like, all right, I want you to shake that goddamn camera when he's selling. Yes. Yeah, do it really hard. It's very intense. Like, you are in it. Like, I am all in on this storyline. It was great storytelling, and Hogan didn't get like mad at Andre. That's what's crazy about this. And he's just disappointed and sad that he lost his friend.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. The psychology in this was, how could you not be behind Hulk on this? Because here he just felt betrayed. And sure, there's everybody in that crowd had a friend somewhere along the line that just betrayed them. Just like, how could you do this to me? I thought we were besties. I thought we were, that you would do anything for me, that we would be friends for life. And then this is what you do. And so who couldn't get behind that? And the Hulkster played it right up all the way. And you said in that scene there where he's just It wasn't overdone, I didn't think, and it was just kind of like you're thinking the same thing. Like, Andre, how could you do? You're listening to that guy. He's screwed so many people, and you're going to go with Heenan, and you're going to listen to him and not the Hulkster. So the way they set this up was perfect, and you could also see Andre's point of it. Now, you didn't have to like it, right? You didn't have to agree with it or want him to, but you're thinking, okay, why hasn't he gotten a title shot? I mean, why? He's not just because he's a giant. He doesn't get a chance to be like, what was the purpose behind that not getting it? So you could understand it. That's why it worked well. When you get these setups, sometimes, when they're trying to force that square peg in the round hole to make that happen. Well, this was not that at all. It worked both ways, because you didn't have to like what Andre was doing, but you got it. You understood why he felt that way, and felt like maybe this guy has been, I don't believe that that's what Hulk did, but I can understand why he's thinking that, because Hulkster did get pretty much exalted because of being on that rub with Andre. And so you got it. And that's why that setup, that everybody wanted to see happen.
Remember those video clips they would show of old Andre, and when Hogan first won the championship, and they dumped champagne on Hogan's head. And this is when Andre has like the afro, like the big
fro.
hair.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, I don't remember him ever having a fro. Of course, I didn't, I was just being born
bad fro
at about that time. So I didn't really watch. I was a little too young. Can move the clicker. But it's just so funny because they'd show you the video packages over the years. Like, man, Andre had a huge fro. And when you see baseball players now put all the goggles over their eyes when they get dumped in champagne,
right.
Man, brilliant, because I have had champagne in my eyes, and that shit hurts. So
stings, yeah.
I don't know if Andre was being a little bitch to Hogan in 1985. He dumped it on his head. He's like, give me a title shot, dick. He's just dumping.
He had that fern on his head. It looked like a brown fern. And that stuff was just soaking, so.
It was very nice. Now, the myth surrounding this matchup is Andre has never been defeated in 15 years, and he's also never been body slammed.
Yeah.
Now, in today's world, obviously, we have phones, we have the internet, Google, YouTube, everything. We can figure out who has lost to who and who actually has been body slammed, so on and so forth. Yeah. In 1987, Andre is still it's kind of like the carnival world, where you have territories and you still go around. Yeah. So for you, is it strange to trick your entire audience to believing one thing, or it's fine because no one has actually seen him be body slammed in the WWF at least?
Yeah, I don't think that was a problem. I think it's the same thing. It was just because of what was at stake in this one, and that it had never really been documented, and this was going to make it official. Could he do it in front of this massive crowd with the title on the line? So, and I'm sure that there were smart marks out there that knew, and they were taught, that we got in the dirt sheets for saying, they say he's never been body slammed, but we know that this happened on this date. And, but we all go along for this ride, Steve. And the WWF, WWE universe at the time was more than willing to get on the ship and go for the ride. And so it wasn't even a factor in that. And that was a part of professional wrestling, all the time. How many times did people leave town? How many times did they retire and unretire? Yeah, you know what I mean? What? So it was just part of it. And people were all in. So that was, certainly the information was out there. You can call them what they fueled them as rumors or whatever, but nobody cared. They wanted to see this matchup. And the fact that André the Giant could become a champion, the WWF heavyweight champion, was enough. And so it was just the hype on this could not have been bigger. And for that reason, it didn't matter what happened in the squared circle that night. And when we get into the match here, you break it down, it wasn't a whole lot to it.
No,
a number of reasons.
Of course, it's more of the moments versus the moves. At least for me personally, the big myth around this too is, I'm very curious about your opinion. Is Andre is suffering. You know, he have severe back issues. But the thing with that is, I've read that and heard that forever. But yet he continuously wrestles even after this. You know, he not every house show, not every a big event, but he is at a lot of these. Like, he doesn't get done as an active wrestler on pay-per-views and television until like what, 1990-ish.
91,
So
I think.
this is 87. So to your knowledge, when I keep hearing he's injured, he's hurt, he can't continue, but he's gonna continue, how hurt really is he? Like, obviously he's a big man, so his back hurts. But every day I wake up, my back hurts because I slept wrong. So my question is, how hurt is he heading into this? Or is this myth about injury grown so far over the years that we don't know the truth anymore?
No, all you had to see was Andre backstage to understand really what his condition was. That was all heart. I'm going to get emotional. I start thinking about what, like, seeing him backstage and how he would move. Just, you could see it as much as he hit it. And even after WrestleMania II, there were, it was out there that he was hurting. His back was a mess. His spine was narrowing, and carrying around that kind of weight on a frame that wasn't designed that way, it breaks down, and the disease just progresses. Andre never wanted to do anything about it. He had opportunities to take medications that might have changed that, but he never would. And he knew that it was just going to continue. And so if you saw his performances as he went in, he didn't do a whole lot in the ring. He would still do the thing. He stepped over the top rope. He would go down. He went down, a couple times in this match, getting body slammed. Imagine that. But he was willing to pay the price for this business because his love for it. And it's, to him, it was, what else was there in his life? But he paid a steep price for it. And like I said, all you had to do was see him backstage. And there were there were periods where he was better than other times, where he moved around a lot better, and you would see him. Then to the end there, when he was using the crutches, the aluminum crutches that you would walk around on. But it was a continuing process. He had surgery, and I think that helped to an extent, but his body was just going to continue to break down, and that's what it did. And even towards the end, and I think his last match was in 91. He didn't want to stop, and that's what happened between him and Vince, is that he felt that Vince, kind of used him up. Well, I happen to think that to an extent, okay, you can make that argument, but also at the same time, Vince couldn't see it, couldn't watch it anymore either. He didn't want that to be the way that would end for Andre. And you've seen interviews with Vince afterwards when he talks about it, and he gets emotional just thinking about it. That people can talk about it one way or the other. They can say with their hate for Vince, and that he just used him up, and when he wasn't useful to him anymore, he cast him aside. I happen to be on the other side of that, in the sense that he saw what Andre was going through, and didn't want to see it end for him in front of crowds, him being in the shape that he was in. And but at the Pontiac Silverdome that day, Andre gave everything he had. Like I said, he went down. People, I should go and watch the match. If you were looking for the two ring tacticians, you're not going to find them unless you go look at that Macho Man Ricky Steamboat match. But the excitement of that match, even watching it again, I still felt like the same way that, and I wasn't there, but I said when I got to see it, that I felt the same way. That, I know, like John Cena talked about when he was a kid, basically watching this, and his house became the Pontiac Silverdome, where, he had 50 relatives come over. That's how exciting it was. And that match to them carried it. Now, the people that are more, want to tear things down and they talk about the match. Sure, there was, you can go through that and you could say, okay, They run into each other. They go into the turnbuckle. Hulk does
Stare
some
down.
chops. Hulk does some chops. We got the 10 count of Andre on the turnbuckle. Okay, it's all that. But you listen to that crowd, and they popped for everything. And even that one point where Andre falls down. Hulk comes off the rope and collides with him, and Andre goes down. And it's like, whoa, So if you were in there looking for this, memorable tactician matchup, that wasn't what it was about. It was the fact you had these two in there for the WWF Championship and two of the greatest names in professional wrestling. And the big question was the Hulkster going to be able to pull this off? Could he body slam André the Giant?
Yeah.
It delivered. And I know that the newsletter, Meltzer, and, he was, I think he gave it -5 stars initially and then changed it to -3. Like, come on, you missed the whole point of what that encounter was, what it was all about. So
Jesus Christ, did they really give it that?
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it was something really, really.
That's
low,
pretty strange to think, because wrestling also is so subjective. Like each person, you could love a brawler but hate high flying, or love technical wrestling but hate hardcore wrestling. And so I think that's, first off, that's fucking weird. And also how everyone has been obsessed with one person's opinion for 40 years.
Right.
I think
but you'd have to throw all that out. That had this match
crazy.
Nothing about that. It wasn't about the,
it was a story.
These two guys in, and who's going to walk out the champion. And so
who got a goddamn bigger trophy, motherfucker?
Right.
That's what. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was really about. It was such a great story, and the thing though, backstage, more. I've read Hulk Hogan's book. I've heard these stories, and tell me what you have heard on the backstage when you worked there, because the story is, as they're heading out there, Hogan's not sure that Andre is going to let him body slam him. Even Vince McMahon he's telling Hogan, don't worry. But in reality, this is two people are involved with this dance. And if one person does want to cooperate, who's 500 plus pounds, he can, pretty much decide not to let you have your moment. So Hogan heading out there in this nervous wreck with 93,000 people, Hogan says he didn't know if Andre was going to let him body slam him. Over the years, what have you heard from other wrestlers?
Well, I think, that certainly adds to the mystique of this match. That that the way they want to tell it is that Hulk Hogan had no idea what was Andre going to put him over. Was he going to just lay out on him and not let him do what he had to do? That the story goes, Hulkster had made notes for this match, this whole thing. He wanted to be very respectful. He was always very respectful of Andre. And, like initially, I'm sure there was some resentment with Andre, but I think that Andre grew to respect Hogan. And I think the Hulkster's respect for Andre just grew even more. And by the time they got to this point, the story can go on, as they say, that nobody knew, not even Vince knew. But I think that Andre had way too much respect for this business. That you're gonna mess with that. You're gonna let your ego get involved. That wasn't the way Andre was, and I think all along he knew that he was going to do what he was going to need to do. He may have been, messed with the Hulkster a bit with this, but I don't think there was ever a question in his mind. And as Hulk Hogan tells the story that he realized, like, once they were in the match, because he got no feedback supposedly from Andre from the notes that he made, all the stuff we're going to do in this. But he said that once we started the match, Andre was by the letter, did everything that as they went along. So it gave him more confidence in it. But I think that, and Vince saying the same thing, he's going to do the right thing, was just to add a little more mystique to this thing. And, my feeling overall is that there was never a question in Andre's mind that he was going to put Hulk over. And I love the intrigue of it, and I will help let that live on forever. That there were questions of whether or not but knowing Andre and the way that he loved this business and had the respect for the boys, once if he had respect for you and he then why would he do that? He didn't have that kind of ego where he was going to put his legend in jeopardy of on that world stage that he decided to just lay out. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put you over that way, So that's where I stand. And I think most of the guys that worked with Andre and knew him felt the same way. But I love the mystique on it. It will live on forever. Here we are, how many years later, and there's still that question: was he thinking about maybe not letting Hulk body slam him? Because you're not doing that without help. He needed Andre to help him do that. As big and strong as the Hulkster was, that ain't happening without Andre's approval. And it was a pretty damn good one. And you got to imagine that it probably didn't feel real good for Andre on the receiving end of that, the conditioning he was in, but he did it. And this match lives on forever as one of the pinnacles, one of the greatest matches, not because of what they did in that ring, but what it stood for and what it did for the professional wrestling world that day in Pontiac, Michigan.
I also think that the Andre Vince thing where they're like, we're not going to tell Hogan if you're going to let him body slam you, is kind of a rib. And we've heard so many ribs in wrestling where it's just one of those things where, well, we're going to actually let you body slam me, but we're going to let you believe for up to like the last second that you're not going to body slam me, because this is a boys club, it feels like. So we are going to do the boys will be boys and just screw with you until you snap. But Hogan didn't snap.
Steve, there was way too much at stake in this for everybody. So
I know the idea of that happening.
They all understood the enormity of this and the fact that the world was watching. And I remember that used to be the slogan.
The world is watching.
And it was watching that day. So, a rib. Come on, is it there? Everybody understood the enormity of this, and it was never a question in my mind that Andre wasn't going to do what he did.
Imagine that, though. You're like
my feeling.
He goes to pick up Andre, and he just lays on top of him like,
just,
1, 2, 3.
All Andre would have to do is do
like,
this,
right? Shit, he kicked out.
Yeah, like, I ain't going anywhere. I'm not going up. He didn't even have to go up. He could have just done one of those. And so, that story also goes when it was time that Andre told Terry, okay, let's do it. Whatever was that mentioned, but it was okay, let's go. And that's when it happened. So
it's a great visual.
Unbelievable that what Andre did that day was phenomenal, and it just launched the Hulkster into the stratosphere. And how could you not feel it when you watch it? Even to this day, you just feel that electricity of what was going on then, and they never looked back.
I gotta say, also, Bobby Heenan steals the show in fashion in this matchup because he has a wonderful, very bright, glittery suit with tails. And this is also the WrestleMania where you come on motorized rings because the arena is so big, they have to put the ring on a platform. So if you were sitting anywhere, you could see it because 93,000 people. And Bobby on that, though, with his coattails, his suit, and of course, Jesse and Gorilla on commentary. Like those three players I want to mention as well because they are involved with this heavy to the end because Bobby's selling everything for Andre. Bobby's been the voice for Andre this whole storyline. Now Jesse and Gorilla have the job to make sure everyone knows what's happening in the ring because at one point, they even play on this for the entire year where Hogan does try to pick up Andre in this matchup. And it's 1-2. Hulk barely kicks out. And Jesse is convinced that Hogan did not kick out. And from this point on, even after this matchup, throughout the year, they can keep playing this like, well, did you really kick out? Or was the referee in on this, and
Yeah.
that plays
Two and
out
a
to the
half.
double referees years
Yeah,
later as well.
Joey was 2.5 when Joey
Yeah,
when he kicked out.
it was very close. But one of the big things
Yeah.
about this WrestleMania 2 is everyone brings up Hogan body slamming Andre because the visual, even years later in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression, the opening still had Hogan body slamming Andre. Pardon me, not the Attitude Era, because I know someone's going to be like, he was in
What are
WCW,
you doing?
dickhead.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. But Macho Man vs. Ricky Steamboat also takes place on this. And every year when people have WrestleMania marathon matches to watch, Macho Man and Steamboat get picked, not Hogan versus Andre. And as years go on, rumors are there's jealousy between Macho Man and Hulk Hogan for as long as both men were alive. Was there jealousy between Hogan and Savage, and did it start here that you know of?
Well, I think I wouldn't call it jealousy. I would say it was like this professional envy in a sense that and all the guys when you go out there and you have a match and it's a great match, it. And it's kind of an unsaid thing. You can be backstage and you may not be the main event, but everybody knows that was the match.
Right.
And as far as as I mentioned, what you're looking for, that match with Randy and Ricky Steamboat was incredible. Really, obviously, just one of the ring tacticians. Both of them tremendous workers, and that match they did not let it down. It was absolutely the match of the night. And, I'm sure that both ways, Randy being the competitor that he was, felt, that they should have gotten maybe, more marquee out of it, more recognition for it. I'm sure that in a sense that the Hulkster was like, geez, they put a match like that and all it does is tear this one down, that takes something away from it. Why do that? Why not let this be it? So sure, there was, the professional jealousy or whatever you want to call it, but that's the healthy part of this business. That's what makes those guys go out there and try and show each other up every night. But I'm sure exactly as you described, there was a sense, and both Randy and Ricky knew that they had the match of the night. But as I said, that match between Andre and Hulk Hogan. It wasn't about the skill set. It wasn't about high flying. It wasn't about these incredible moves. It wasn't necessarily about what was going on there. It was the storytelling. It was the enormity of what was behind those two in the ring. So yes, both of them were tremendous, but for their own reasons. And overall, there's no question in my mind that the Andre and Hulk Hogan match overshadowed everything.
Yeah, of course.
Despite the
whole year
performances that we saw, between with Randy and Ricky, there's no question. You want to talk about a match? Absolutely. That's still, even to this day, people talk about greatest matches of all time. That's part of the conversation
always.
But that's not what this event was about. And that it's as they say, two things can be right, two things can be the same. They were in that sense as far as watchability, like what are you watching for, but it depends what you're looking at. But the main event was absolutely the main event. There was nothing took it away from it. Right. And also the impact. Let's say that match with Randy and Ricky was the main event. Well, how would that have unbelievable, tremendous match, greatest match of all time, your argument? How did it change professional wrestling?
Right. It did not.
Okay.
It might have made wrestlers want to become wrestlers, but
yes. But I'm saying overall in the industry, this one was an earthquake, which is we can talk about him another time, but it shook the world. It shook the professional wrestling world, and it did. It shook it up, and the trajectory kept going. It kept happening. It's
true. And interesting though, because towards the end of '87, eventually Savage and Hogan get together, and then late '88, you have the Mega Powers and the whole run. So I could see, now I'm not doing it, but I could see people put dots together and being like, well, Hogan was mad at Savage for getting over here. Now people, the underground fans who are interested in wrestling, not Hulkamania anymore. Well, if Hogan attaches himself to like the wrestler that people love, maybe he can keep his love with the wrestlers and then the kids and the moms and the bringing their grandparents. I don't know. That's just a weird theory to jump out right now, because like sometimes you've seen it over years where a star is rising, a star is going down. So a star going down connects himself to a wrestler going up, so he can continually going up. Not to say that Hogan was going down at all around this time, but attaching yourself to a pure wrestler versus you being a sports entertainer maybe helped Hogan's longevity amongst certain fans.
Yeah, and you can do a real deep dive on this, Steve, and start thinking that this was all in the stars, and that Vince was that genius, and Pat Patterson and all those guys are thinking, yeah, and then and then we're going to get Randy into this, and we're going to put them in like. I don't think they were able to dive that deep, but I think they may have seen the star power of Randy and what he could do, and say, he's somebody who could definitely part of this future, because as we know, Vince was always starting to think about, okay, we hadn't even seen the peak of Hulkamania yet, but he had to be thinking in his mind, well, yeah, but we're going to need backup, and then look where we went from there. Certainly other episodes that we've done and will show the impact of the union between Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and how they impacted professional wrestling forever.
Oh, yeah.
So it all was part of this. But this one was really at the foundation of how things would really come to be, and the fact that it happened when it did and moved things along much quicker has made that event and the match historic forever.
100%. And the business side of it too is like, think about, we didn't really have pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is a thing in 1987, but it's not the thing. Not everyone is having it. You're still going to theaters, local arenas to watch pay-per-views. This event itself, 400,000 buys on pay-per-view. That's gigantic, folks, for 1987. Like, oh my God, how did this happen? Closed circuit estimated $10 million. And again, this is 1987.
Yeah.
Total gross, pay-per-view plus closed circuit plus live gate, that's over $20 million. This is unprecedented in 1987. This is not a normal thing we're having in smoke-filled arenas. For business-wise, again, this begins this giant movement, which we'll talk about in other episodes, where Vince can use his WrestleMania brand as bargaining tools to hurt other wrestling companies, because WrestleMania is such a success, especially WrestleMania III.
Yeah, no question about that. And you're right. That is a whole other episode, but of the impact that, Vince McMahon had on the pay-per-view industry. Who knows where that would have ever gone? And look what we're doing today with the streaming and everything else. Well, thank the WWE for that growth, because what else did you see? You had boxing matches that were going to be, started with closed circuit. They were kind of the first to do that. But at the same time, they were sporadic. You didn't have regularly necessarily, every month or something, necessarily having a big, gigantic event. Mm-hmm. And the WWE did that, and it just took off from there. And for a very long time, you really didn't see much else that on that scale. You had other pay-per-views, but not on the scale that you saw with the WWE. And one thing also I wanted to mention that I did love about this match, and I think it was, I don't know if it was a tribute to or let's take advantage of it, but they wanted this event, especially the main event, to have that big fight feel. And if you remember, Jesse, when they do the introductions, is giving the tail of the tape, the chest size, the biceps, the forearms, the wrists, the calves, And then you got Bob Uecker comes in as the special guest ring announcer to announce them. Mary Hart from Entertainment Tonight is the timekeeper. So I got a kick out of that, and it's just an aside, I guess. But I love the fact that they made it give it that big fight feel, with those kind of introductions, just like they did with boxing. And so it was maybe a little bit of a salute to the beginnings of pay-per-view and that whole thing with boxing, and a little tribute to that, and also stealing a little bit of it as far as the marketing of it go. But I just thought I really thought that was a cool thing, a cool part of it, especially when they're reeling off Andre's statistics.
God damn it! Tell me how big his legs are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you probably don't know this, but what is he announces? Andre's got 21-inch biceps. Hulkster's got 24. So wow, the pythons are. He's got a bigger snake on those shoulders. But I loved that, and I just got a kick out of hearing it again with Jesse doing the announcing. So yeah, and those two worked well together. I've seen comments where people saying, well, no, Jesse and Gorilla were just great together. Yes, they were. But when I've been asked, like personally, what did I like? I like Gorilla and Bobby together. I like Vince and Jesse together. That's just personal preference, folks. Everybody had their preferences, and that's
it's a buffet, man. You have all these people.
Yeah, and this, with the irresistible force versus the immovable object with Gorilla and all of his, oh God, so many great Gorilla-isms, whatever you want to call them. We got a lot of them in these matchups. Loved them.
No, the commentary is outstanding. The crowd in the slow movements of Andre and Hogan walking up to each other, and Hogan's just sitting there shaking his head, and Andre, and you can feel like that's the thing too, is there's a difference now watching television where you're expecting a reaction from fans, and so immediately when there's a bad show, people go online go, it's because of Montreal not being a good crowd, or this is because Baltimore was a shitty crowd. This crowd, if you thought this match was bad, shut the volume off and watch it with no volume, and you can see visually the audience standing the entire time. No matter what, no punch, no kick, falling over, whatever your critique of this match is, watch the audience. The audience is having the time of their life, and I think that people forget about.
Yeah, and like you said, the two of them toe to toe in the ring. That again, that
and Andre's taller than him.
That big fight feel, and they're just nose to nose, just like you see. And that intensity on Andre and the apprehension, and I think is the best way to put it. Like you said, Hulk is kind of shaken, and wasn't like necessarily fear, but apprehension. What's going to happen here? And loved it. It was a big fight.
Oh yeah. Success from this then creates the rematch they have. They build WrestleMania IV having a rematch in that world title tournament. You have the double referee match. You have the birth of Survivor Series based off this match, which happens later on in November with Team Hogan versus Team Andre. The birth of SummerSlam with the Mega Bucks versus the Mega Powers. Honestly, I don't think people give Andre in the Hogan rivalry enough credit, because it created so many other moments out of this body slam, out of this rivalry, out of bad trophies being delivered. This turned into 2 years of storylines. And I think not a lot of matches do that. A lot of matches, we have our match. Okay, boom. Now you go fight this guy and I'll go fight that guy. This one is they're connected at the hip for at least another 2 years, which is longevity, which really shows you this worked out.
Yeah. Oh no. And then also think about how it helped everybody else. All of these other superstars. Right. Yeah. Because as you said, they had their teams, and, a rub from Andre for a heel, and a Hulkster, all the different guys that he ended up putting over. So yeah, it put them on the scale of that stage up there, that they were kingmakers in a sense, that, you got that rub from one of those guys, and it helped, spread the marquee for the rest of these guys. And, Randy, certainly one of them, with the Hulkster and all that took place from then on. But the list goes on and on. All of those guys, Ted DiBiase, and we could just name them.
Virgil, Bobby Heenan,
right?
Just an endless list of characters,
right? Like for other organizations where you're not necessarily, let's say, you've got a champion, and you don't get the same thing. these guys were just beyond the stars, and they made them stars just by being around them. They had been put in that position that whoever got next to them became more known and more popular. So the whole thing was just brilliant as far as the way it worked from that point on. And it was a formula that they rode for decades.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And that's where, they started to really realize just the power of that. It was old school wrestling in a sense, but never had wrestlers. They had been put in that kind of position where they were known the world over. And, these guys happy to ride those coattails because it meant not only this, the recognition, but money. These guys were making money like they'd never seen before, way beyond what they'd ever seen in any other wrestling organization. And it went on and on. They all paid a price, though.
Yes, we always talk about the prices paid. Before we wrap this up, I kind of have a two-part question is, as we record this, it's 2025. The WWE inducted the Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin match from WrestleMania 13 into the Hall of Fame. That's the first match ever going to the Hall of Fame. My question to you is Hogan body slamming Andre, not the match, the moment. Should that go into the Hall of Fame for the WWE audience? Or if you had a Mount Rushmore as well, is this body slam a top 4 WWE moment of all time?
Well, yes, on both counts. Absolutely. No question about it. That match. And as we said, it wasn't about the skill set. It wasn't about the moves that happened in that ring or what went. It was all about what it represented and how it changed professional wrestling forever. There's no way without those two, 93,000 people wouldn't have been in that stadium that day. And I know that as Vince saw those numbers just keep going up, that they sweated it out in a sense, that thinking, because to sell that many tickets, my God, that was an enormous challenge. But they, once they had this going, and they, you hear the stories of how they couldn't even believe it, that how fast and how much, how the tickets were selling for this. And in Pontiac, Michigan, of all places. Now, that's not like they didn't have wrestling fans, but think about, the population center. It's not exactly one of the biggest in the world or even the United States by any stretch, but 93,000 people plus showed up there, and whatever it was, but it was a hell of a lot of people, and an unbelievable, incredible accomplishment all the way. Mount Rushmore as far as matches go, and also Hall of Fame matches.
To our Michigan fans, we love you. We love you out there, Michigan. All right, we love you, because we did an episode once, and I was in Pittsburgh, and the first thing you said to me was, "How you doing today?" I go, "I'm in Pittsburgh. I advise never to come here." All the comments were, "What's wrong with Pittsburgh?"
Yeah, what's wrong with Pittsburgh? You.
It was scary that day I was there, folks, for Backlash. It was scary, but no, I think this moment, again, like all moments in the golden era, this will go down as one of the top moments, because it created a moment, it created a lifetime. People still talk about Andre, still talk about Hogan, the body slam heard around the world. You can feel any which way you want about Hulk Hogan, but I'm not going to let you disparage this moment in professional wrestling history. So Hogan body slamming Andre, 2 thumbs up for me. You say Hall of Fame, I agree. So in reality, WrestleMania 3, it's a long event, folks. And this is, the beginning. I feel like even WrestleMania 1, I don't consider, it's like the golden era, but it's like connected to another era. WrestleMania 3, I feel like, is the birth of the golden era, where we get all of our Macho Mans and Warriors and Demolition and so on and so forth. But in reality, then, Mr. Mooney, it is always a pleasure talking to you about the golden era. I'm Steve Fall. He's Sean Mooney. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.